Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling this clip from RT America's YouTube channel titled Plastic, Now Radioactive Water Destroying Pacific Ocean. And this video is just going to be another example of why you heathen nations have no business ruling this planet, because you do everything contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi in the scriptures, which if you followed them, this planet would be like the Garden of Eden. But as we'll see from this clip, it's clearly not. You've got the Ammonites, or the so-called Japanese people, planning on pouring radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima meltdown into the Pacific Ocean. And then on the west coast of the United States of America, you've got Edomite, or so-called white people-run companies, pouring toxic waste into the oceans, giving wildlife cancer. Just complete madness. But real quick, I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 24, start at verse 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, pouring toxic and radioactive wastes into the oceans, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. And like I just said, if you heathen nations followed after the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi, none of this madness would be happening, but you're clearly not, which is why you need to be taken out of power, and the rightful rulers, the true children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, need to be put back in power, because we're going to run this planet under the laws, statutes, and commandments. But when we go into that word languish in the Strongs, it's Strong's H535.
Strong's H535. Amal. Dissenius lexicon.
Amal. To be weak, to droop, to languish, to be exhausted, to be weak, to be or grow feeble. And when we play that clip, you'll definitely see that the earth has become exhausted and weak under the rulership of you heathen nations. And we usually use these verses to talk about you Edomites, since you're the ones in rulership right now. But since you are in rulership, these other heathen nations are following after your destructive practices. As it says in Sirach chapter 10, I'm going to read verses 1 to 3. A wise judge will instruct his people, the children of Israel, beginning with the elect, or the 144,000 and the rest of the righteous 1/3, teaching you heathen nations the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi. And the government of a prudent man is well ordered, this planet being run under those laws, statutes, and commandments, everything being in perfect order and harmony. No chemtrails, pollution getting poured into the ocean, GMO foods, cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation, feminism, capitalism, democracy, socialism, communism, etc., etc. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. And since you Edomites are in rulership right now, and you're the basest and vilest of men who only commit destructive acts contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi, these other heathen nations are following suit. You Edomites have a history of pouring toxic waste and radioactive waste into the oceans, and so these other heathen nations, like the Ammonites or the so-called Japanese, are doing the same. An unwise king destroyed this people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. Point blank, period. It's going to be a beautiful day when you heathen nations, chiefly you Edomites, are taken out of power and the rightful rulers are back in power. Now let's play this clip.
Remember the Fukushima nuclear disaster? 10 years ago, Japan suffered the most devastating earthquake in its history, and nearly 20,000 people were killed. The nuclear site at Fukushima was destroyed, and the region was flooded with, well, nuclear wastewater. But the story didn't end there. People have been complaining of failing health as a result of the contamination, and today the Japanese government is announcing a plan that critics say will only make things worse, much worse, and not just for those in Japan. Here's RT's Alex Mihailovich with the story.
It is a disaster that keeps on giving. In March 2011, a massive earthquake and tsunami triggered a nuclear catastrophe in Japan's Fukushima prefecture. Over the years, thousands of tons of radioactive water have leaked into local rivers in the Pacific Ocean from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which experienced a triple meltdown over a decade ago. Now, an estimated 1.25 million tons of water that was pumped into the ruined reactors in an attempt to cool them down is being stored in tanks at the facility. Most radioactive materials, including strontium and cesium, have been removed, but not tritium, which has been linked to cancer in humans. That said, to the dismay of many, Japan is planning on dumping that water into the sea. Here's Japan's Prime Minister.
We will decrease the tritium concentration level to about 1/40th of the benchmark set by Japan and 1/7 of the benchmark for drinkable water set by WHO. Furthermore, we will maintain transparency with the eyes of third parties such as International Atomic Energy Agency and continue monitoring closely.
While the Japanese government is trying to reassure its people and the world that the dump will be safe, some aren't buying it. At home in Japan, many have been protesting against the idea. And foreign governments have also expressed concern, especially those in Japan's neighborhood, including South Korea,
The Japanese government's decision is absolutely unacceptable.
and China.
This is highly irresponsible and will severely affect human health and the immediate interests of people in neighboring countries.
The nuclear plant's operator, TEPCO, expects to run out of space to store any more contaminated water by the fall of 2022. The release of radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean is set to begin in 2 years' time. For RT, I'm Alex Mihailovich.
Toxic waste is not just a problem in parts of Japan. It's an issue all over the Pacific area. Thorny issue, by the way, for Californians. Some say that it's a made-up issue. Others seem to dedicate their entire lives to this cause of cleaning up the state's waters around California. A team of University of California researchers have just stumbled upon finding that supporters, activists' assertions may convert the state's most ardent deniers. RT's Natasha Sweet has this report.
Just 10 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, between Long Beach and Catalina Island, 3,000 feet down on the ocean floor, lies hundreds of thousands of barrels of industrial waste. And according to Dr. David Valentine, whose research team uncovered the findings, the waste has been piling up for decades. You're looking at DDT barrels found by Valentine's lab at the University of Santa Barbara. These images were captured by their cameras. Some believe this is the second dump site of Montrose Chemical Corporation, which used to be one of the largest insecticide DDT manufacturers in the U.S. It stopped production in 1982.
As the ruler of the people is, as the ruler is, so are the people. You Edomites have a history of dumping toxic waste into the oceans, so these other nations are following suit by doing the same thing.
Past litigation found the Torrance-based company dumped millions of pounds of pesticides into county sewers from the 1940s until the 70s. 34 miles off the Palos Verdes coast needed to be restored as a result. Valentine's team believes this could be part of the reason why sea lions and other wildlife in the area are contracting cancer, which is reportedly rare for animals in the wild. According to Valentine, a whopping 25% of the sea lion adults in the area have cancer. While scientists say humans cannot get DDT contamination from swimming in the ocean alone, there are warnings to not eat certain types of fish along the coast. The Scripps Institution of Oceanography from the University of San Diego has combed through 50,000 acres of the seafloor. While their findings are still being released, they too have uncovered many of the same barrels dumped into the ocean. Reporting for the news with Rick Sanchez, Natasha Sweet, RT.
All right.
Back in Isaiah 24 verse 5, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. And we saw a clear example of that in that video. And hey, Creation is mourning for the return of the Israelites back to power. As it says in Romans chapter 8, I'm going to start at verse 19. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God, the children of Israel, who are again the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because we'll rule this planet under the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, which is the only right way to do anything. I'm going to jump down to verse 22. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And what did they say in that clip from RT America, that on the United States' west coasts, you've got sea lions and other wildlife contracting cancer. And then you know that when those Ammonites dump that radioactive wastewater from Fukushima into the Pacific, it's also going to cause adverse effects to the ecosystem. But hey, like I've been saying all throughout the video, when the true children of Israel are back in power, this whole planet is going to go back to its former estate, like the Garden of Eden. Hey, this time it's going to be even better than the Garden of Eden, if you can believe it. But now I'm going to close it out in Psalms chapter 96. I'm going to read verses 10 to 12. Say among the heathen that Yahweh reigneth, which is what the true men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, are doing by going out onto the highways and byways to preach this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, telling you that Yahweh reigneth, and that these terrible times will come to an end, and the heathen nations will be taken out of power, and the rightful rulers who will rule this planet under the laws, statutes, and commandments will be put back into power, the children of Israel. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously through his son, Yahushai Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, and the nation of Israel, beginning with the elect, the 144,000 and the rest of the righteous 1/3, who are going to govern this planet under the laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 11, let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea roar, and the fullness thereof. Hey, when the nation of Israel is back in power, ruling under the laws, statutes, and commandments, there's going to be no more chemtrails getting sprayed into the sky, which is why the heavens are going to rejoice, and the earth is going to be glad because it's no longer going to get strip mined for its resources or animals getting hunted to extinction, and the sea's going to roar because no more toxic or radioactive waste is going to get poured into it. Let the field be joyful and all that is therein. Then shall all the trees of the wood rejoice. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim were edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.